Hey everyone, this is Alp Acterys here, Managing Director of Architecture and Platforms here at FP Automation. Welcome back to our series on FP&A planning within Fabric powered by Acterys. In this video, we are going to be talking all about balance sheet driver planning, specifically around AR, AP, and inventory planning. Or for some of you who may know this, for AR, DSO planning, Days Sales Outstanding planning, and AP, which is DPO planning or Days Payable Outstanding planning. Before we get into today's video, I wanted to quickly recap on our previous video where we covered all about debt and financing. As we start to make our way through the P&L planning, we ultimately get into debt financing where we are looking for potential financing opportunities the company may be making with its cash in order to preserve cash for other means within the company and take advantage of cheap debt potentially. This may also be something that could be leveraged as a way to invest in capital expenditures if the company does not necessarily have the money to be able to use full cash for payments, but instead it can take advantage of leverage. In this video, we're going to be talking all about really the working capital components of the balance sheet and cash flow statement planning. What you can see right here is that we currently have an AR planning module and a very similar setup for AP and inventory planning. One pain point we see a lot of companies having is exactly when they'll be collecting this particular cash in order to be able to fund the business from a working capital standpoint as well as an initiative standpoint. So the idea behind leveraging Acterys powered within Fabric is you have the ability to be able to take your revenue inputs from your previous revenue planning and use that as a starting point for your days sales outstanding planning or accounts receivable planning. So what we're essentially doing here is we're allowing you from a company perspective to be able to forecast out when you will be collecting your particular revenue amounts in payments. And again, right now we're doing this at a company level, but ultimately this can be done at a customer level if you're planning at a customer level. So imagine now you can come in here and you can, by taking the terms of your agreements with your typical customers, project out what your collections will look like. So for example, let's say the 2.5 million we're earning in revenue for 2024-06-01, we believe we're going to collect that within 90 days. What that ultimately does is that actually changes our AR balance, taking into account the actuals, as well as, in this case, the forecast, showcasing that because we're collecting this particular money within September, our AR will be going down. And for all the money that we're not collecting, essentially revenue here, that is essentially collections that we need to go and prioritize. So now this will allow for decision making as well as analysis around, hey, what would happen if we went ahead and increased our terms or decreased our terms with certain customers based on negotiations going on? How does it affect our cash collection? And in the business where cash is king, this is a great analysis enabling you to be able to find out exactly where there's bottlenecks within the business and where your collections team needs to focus in order to collect the cash that you're projecting to earn so that you can continue to keep cash flows healthy within the business from an inflow perspective. On the flip side, we have the AP planning side where we are taking the operating expenses as well as costs and then dictating when these will be paid out. Now, right now we're doing assumptions at a company level, but this can also be done at a vendor level potentially if you are planning at that level. So imagine now you have the ability to take your payments in this case and project those out further in terms of when you will be paying out cash for these particular costs and expenses. And the idea would be to keep your accounts payable balances at a healthy level, of course, but as always, the lesser payments you can make, the more you can delay those payments, the more cash you have in-house in order to be able to support various different working capital initiatives within the company. That might be hiring individuals, potentially investing in asset with cash that's freed up on here. And on the flip side, we also have the inventory side where inventory can be managed from a cost of goods sold perspective. So if there's any sort of inventory additions or potentially cost of goods sold deductions, you can easily be able to plan those on here and then start to slowly trickle down your cost of goods sold planning over time. So these are various different mechanisms that your team can be pulling from a balance sheet driver perspective to be able to drive what exactly activity and balances from a balance sheet and cash flow perspective will look like based on how you're collecting cash and paying out cash for your accounts receivable as well as accounts payable, and of course your inventory management on here. So within our next video, we're going to be talking about various different balance sheet inputs that can be done and how all of our various different components around capital expenditure, debt, as well as AR, AP, and inventory planning are flowing into the balance sheet and the cash flow to give us future projections. And of course, how we're going to be using those for potentially using a revolver credit balance to be able to fund operations if our cash is running low. So we'll see you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed this one. This is Alp signing out.